Hey, I'm Neil. Welcome to Petrogy. If you like what you see, please tell your friends. You can also support these videos by becoming a patron on Patreon. You can also follow me on Steemit, and you can subscribe on DTube as well. Comments, shares, likes, upvotes, responses, and resteems, they're all always very greatly appreciated. 3-4 weeks ago, we had a real good meeting here in Arizona. It was very refreshing to meet with some like-minded folks. It's going to be very interesting to see how that group develops as well. Last weekend was out in the desert with 2 other folks from the Meetup. We were scoping out different locations. We found a real good location, good size area for the actual Meetup, and there's also some opportunities there for camping, a campfire, and nearby you can shoot in the desert as well. The last couple of weeks, it seems like there's been an uptick in videos on YouTube about prepper groups. Viking Preparedness, the Delaware Patriot, just to name a few, have been putting out videos. The gist of everything that I'm seeing seems to be you want to build a strong, capable group. You want to select quality individuals, and you want those groups to be local. You don't want your prepper group to be 20 miles away. How are you going to get there? How are they going to get to you? Obviously, I want to get out of the urban environment, but being that I am in an urban environment, I have to work with the situation that I've got. I find that there's some unique challenges to being in an urban environment. OPSEC is a big one. You really want to stay under the radar. You don't want to have a load of people come knocking at your front door when something happens, asking why you're grilling steaks in the backyard, or what do we do for this, what do we do for intel, what do we do for security. You want to have a lot of that stuff sorted out ahead of time. You also don't want to be known as that crazy prepper neighbor, right? You don't want your neighbors to be uncomfortable or suspicious. Some alternative methods that I've been exploring when I was looking for people to be part of the Meetup, I went out to our next door, which is a website. It's kind of like Facebook, but it's really neighborhood specific. I posed some questions out there about solar, just to gauge the responses I was getting, see if there's anybody out there that sounds like they might have that mindset that we're looking for. Didn't really have much luck. Also, I've got a neighbor that does some gardening. They've also, occasionally I see them over there cooking stuff in their solar oven. So I get the feeling they're of the same mindset as well, just in conversations we've had over the fence or what have you. I'm kind of choosing to keep things at that gardening level, if you will, as far as topics. Then when something happens, to see if we can evolve that into something more in depth, but really build connections with your neighbors based on those core competencies, if you will, and then when the situation dictates, see if you can grow it out. I remember, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago down in Texas, there was a hurricane, and some news crew was driving around to neighborhoods. They came across a neighborhood in Texas where there was a roadblock, and there was a sign that said looters will be shot on sight. And there was a guy out there with his shotgun, and it sounded like all the neighbors were taking turns on watch and things of that sort. You really want to have these things sorted out before you get to that, before you find yourself in that situation. There's also recently some tornadoes back in Minnesota, and I'm always impressed. I went to watch the news coverage because I was from that area, and I'm always impressed with the high school sports teams coming out and helping people clear debris and things of that sort. Just that Minnesota nice, if you will. It was very refreshing to see that. One of the things that came up about the same time about that tornadoes in Minnesota. We've got some family back there. One of the family members was heard the sirens going off, wasn't prepared because she had just moved in recently to the place that she was living in, didn't really have a plan for what she was going to do. Luckily, everything went well. There was no issues or anything, but one of the disappointing things was the communication on the family side. We didn't even know there was a tornado until after the fact, after hearing the story from the family member. If there would have been some sort of communication that came out of that, hey, there was a tornado, it was near so and so, we checked on them, everything's okay. That would have been, I think, a little less of a surprise. All right, let's do some linking. Specifically, we talked about the meetups. We talked about some of the recent videos out there about prepper groups. We talked about the tornado in Minnesota, and I also talked to you about the gentleman down in Texas with the shotgun and the roadblock. So in SHTF, you really need to have your groups to be local. Before you get into SHTF, you want those non-local groups to be the network for the local groups. The biggest need for those non-local groups, I think, is connecting individuals to local groups and connecting the local groups together. Also connecting to some sort of a larger group, be it a national or regional, and being able to facilitate that communication all the way down to the individual level. Communication, I think, is going to be the key. Between local groups and connecting to national groups, the biggest needs that I see both pre and post SHTF, we've got a lot of censorship out there. The internet is definitely compromised. We've got a lot of propaganda. We want to have some, we want to be able to get good information. If there's no internet, the internet's compromised, or there's no other electronic means to communicate, we need to have some way for those local groups and the individuals to communicate. We need to be able to share intel. Let's say there's some wildfires up in the White Mountains. So if let's say you've got a bug out location in the White Mountains, you want to be able to have that information so you don't go head in that direction. If you have to bug out, you want to be able to look for an alternate location. If you're traveling when SHTF happens, that's where I think that some sort of regional or national groups really come in handy. You can get some intel from them. You can figure out what's happening in your local area, wherever where you're traveling at. I find that to be a big need, especially since my work has me traveling quite a bit. So if you'd like to attend the next meetup, it's going to be Saturday, October 27th at 1400. It is going to be the last meetup that we have until first quarter of 2019. It's time for us to get real. No more restaurants, no more air conditioning. We live in Arizona and we're surrounded by the desert, so the next meetup will be where we need to be prepared to survive. Please come prepared to be outdoors in a desert, high desert environment. It will be rain or shine. I'll be hosting it. You can email me. My email will be down below this video. Please bring something to sit on. You'll also want to bring some food to eat. You'll want to bring some water or some sort of beverage to stay hydrated. And please bring your everyday carry gear when you're planning a day in the wilderness. For our agenda, we've got a presentation on security and intel. We've also got a presentation on 2 members' respective zones, being desert and high desert. We've also got someone that's going to be talking to us about herbal remedies for bites and stings, from the brown recluse, the black widow, scorpion, and rattlesnakes. Everyone should bring their everyday carry gear when planning a day in the wilderness. We're going to be sharing that with everybody in the meetup. We're also going to have some discussions about basic skills that we want to have as a group, and we want to discuss where do we want this group to go in the future. What's this group going to look like in the future? And then we'll wrap up with some sustain and improve. And then there might be some activities before or after, depending on if anybody volunteers to do a campfire, or if someone wants to, camp overnight, if someone wants to go shoot in the desert. That information will be posted in updates, and you can get additional information from the people that are going to be hosting those. Other than that, this has definitely been a challenging video. There's going to be some editing involved. The life flight, the numerous planes, the 4x4, the ATVs, the person that was riding by on their horse talking on their cell phone. A lot of that stuff will be edited out. Thank you for watching, and good luck out there.